Okay, let's unpack this because I think if you've ever bought a house or even just thought about it, you know it's this massive rite of passage.
Oh, absolutely.
You save up your money, you scroll through Zillow until your eyes literally bleed, maybe you lose a bid or two, you drink a glass of wine, complain to your friends, and you move on.
Right. That's the standard
Yeah,
experience.
that is the normal garden variety stress of adulting.
Uh,
But today's deep dive, we are going way, way past the normal anxiety of a 30-year mortgage. We're essentially entering a war zone.
It really is the modern hunting ground. And what's so fascinating here is that we aren't just talking about the financial mechanics of buying a home. We're not talking about interest rates or down payments or closing costs.
All right.
We are talking about the complete psychological disintegration that happens when keeping up turns into an actual blood sport. I mean, this isn't HGTV. This
Wow.
is survival of the fittest.
Exactly. We are looking at the incredibly high-stakes world of the Washington, D.C. real estate market. And if you think the politics in D.C. are cutthroat, just wait until you see what happens in the suburbs.
It's vicious.
It really is. So we're tracking the story of a woman named Margo Miyake. And just to give you an overview of our sources today, we have a really detailed look into Margo's life. She's a successful PR executive, she's incredibly driven, she's smart, and she is just absolutely desperate to escape her current living situation.
Margo is such a compelling central figure for this deep dive because she represents a very specific, a very modern type of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because outwardly, she has it all. She has the career, she has the husband, but internally, she feels like she is completely failing because she hasn't secured the nest. And that desperation drives her toward what she views as the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail being an off-market white brick colonial in the prestigious Grovemont neighborhood of Bethesda, Maryland. Just hearing the phrase off-market gives me chills.
I know, right?
That's the ultimate fantasy, beating the crowd.
It is, because it implies you have access. It means you have knowledge that the general public doesn't. And our mission today with this deep dive isn't just to tell a story about a house hunt. We are looking at a case study on obsession.
Definitely.
It's about the ethical lines people are totally willing to cross when they feel like they're being left behind by the economy. We are going to look at Margo's journey from a frustrated everyday buyer to an amateur investigator.
And potentially a blackmailer.
Exactly.
It gets absolutely wild. Our sources track her partnership with her husband, Ian, who is, let's just say he's much more risk-averse than she is. We've got her intense conflict with the homeowners, Kurt Bradshaw and Jack Lombardi. And we also have this professional unraveling happening at her PR firm, Buzz Inc., at the exact same time.
It's a perfect storm.
It really is. So let's jump right in. What is the pressure cooker that Margo is living in right now? Because I feel like to understand the crime, if we want to call it that, you really have to understand the motive.
Well, to understand Margo's actions, you really have to understand her environment. She and Ian are currently living in what she explicitly refers to as a glass box apartment in Shaw, specifically the U Street corridor.
Which, for those of you who don't know D.C., is a very hip, very busy, very noisy part of town. It's great for nightlife. It's great for brunch.
Right. It's fantastic if you're 25. But Margo is 38. And for her, this apartment feels like a literal cage. The backstory is super critical here because they aren't first-time buyers in the traditional sense. They actually owned a home before. They sold their starter row house back in 2020.
Okay, stop right there. 2020. That was the absolute height of the pandemic market craziness.
Exactly. They thought they were timing the market perfectly. The plan was so common at the time. Sell high, cash out all that equity, rent a place for a little bit while the market cools down, and then upgrade to the forever home.
Classic sell high, buy, whenever strategy.
Right.
But whenever never came, did it?
It backfired spectacularly. The market didn't cool down. It accelerated. So they have been stuck renting this glass box for 18 months. And in the source material, we actually have access to what you might call their loss sheet.
The loss sheet. That just sounds ominous.
It is brutal. It's this document tracking their failures. They have lost 11 bidding wars.
Wait, I really want to stop on that number, 11. Because I think it's easy for us to hear 11 lost bids and just think, oh, the market is hot. But we need to really metabolize what that looks like on a human level.
It's devastating.
That is 11 weekends of hope, 11 open houses, 11 Mondays of absolute heartbreak.
It's incredibly grueling, and in the notes, you can actually track their psychology breaking down just by looking at the numbers on this sheet. For instance, look at house number 3. This was early on. They offered the asking price. It was very civilized. They wrote a nice little letter about how much they loved the garden, and they lost. Then look at house number 6. the fixer-upper in Petworth. They offered 50 grand over asking, and they waived the inspection, which, by the way, for a house built in 1920,
Oh my gosh.
that is financial Russian roulette.
It's a massive risk. You are basically buying potential termite damage, lead paint, old wiring, and they were willing to take that risk.
And they still lost. But house number 11, that's the breaking point. This is where we see a very specific economic and psychological phenomenon kick in. It's called the winner's curse.
Break that down for us, because usually when I hear winner's curse, it means you won the auction, but you paid way too much.
Right.
But they didn't even win.
Right. So in standard economic theory, the winner's curse is when the winning bid exceeds the intrinsic value of the item, so the quote-unquote winner actually loses money in the long run. But here, Margo is suffering from the fear of the winner's curse, inverted. She believes the only way to win is to irrationally overpay. So for house number 11, they dipped into their 401ks. They raided their retirement accounts. They offered $1.3 million. That was $250,000 over the asking price.
That is $250,000 of we are desperate money. That is just pure panic money.
And the absolute ticker here, they weren't even in the top 3 offers. There were 7 all-cash offers.
7. You're kidding.
7 all-cash offers beat them. So Margo learns a very specific, very toxic lesson from this. Money isn't enough. You can literally bankrupt yourself, you can mortgage your entire future, and you can still lose to a developer or some investor with a suitcase full of cash.
That is so soul-crushing. It just creates this profound feeling of powerlessness.
It creates actual trauma. Margo is suffering from the trauma of almost winning repeatedly. Every single loss reinforces this idea that playing by the rules simply doesn't work. It pushes her toward more extreme measures. Because if the game is rigged, why play by the rules?
Wow. And there's another layer to this pressure, right? Because we see in the sources that it's not just about square footage. It's about this no house, no baby loop.
Yeah, this is where it gets really heavy. Margo is 38 years old. In medical fertility terms, that is categorized as advanced maternal age. She has frozen her eggs, but she and Ian are in this agonizing fertility stalemate. Margo has mentally tied conception to the house.
What does that mean exactly? Tied conception to the house.
She has convinced herself that she literally cannot relax enough to conceive until the nest is secured. She believes that her body somehow knows she is in a temporary, unsafe environment, the apartment, and her body is actively refusing to get pregnant.
That is such a heavy burden for you to carry. Like, I can't start my family until I have the foyer. It sounds like magical thinking.
It is magical thinking, but it's rooted in very real biology and stress. Her doctor, Dr. Warner, actually advised them to get the house squared away first to lower her cortisol levels before starting IVF.
Which is deeply ironic.
Right, because the house hunt is the primary source of the stress. But Margo has fully internalized this medical advice. She firmly believes she cannot be a mother in that glass box apartment.
It's a control mechanism. When everything else in your life feels out of control, the market, your biology, you focus on the one variable you think you can fix, the house.
Exactly. And then you have Ian. He comes from a very, very different place.
Yeah, let's talk about Ian for a second. He seems like the anchor here. Or, maybe the drag, depending on your perspective.
He is the anchor. He's a government lawyer, so he's risk-averse by trade. He comes from a very stable, middle-class background in Indianapolis. His parents are still together. They send cupcakes in the mail. They call on Sundays.
The quintessential nice family.
Yes. He completely lacks Margo's desperation because he's never really felt the floor fall out from under him.
Whereas Margo
had a highly chaotic childhood, financial ruin, foreclosure. In the sources, she talks about her dad turning into a psychopath over their front lawn right before they lost their house.
Right, he was obsessed with keeping the grass green.
Exactly, even as the bank was literally taking the deed. So for Margo, owning this home in Grovemont isn't just about social status. It's about safety. It's about proving to herself that she's finally safe from the chaos of her past. That hunger is what separates her from Ian.
There's this detail in the source material about walnuts that I think perfectly captures their dynamic.
The walnuts, yes. Margo was making Ian eat walnuts every day to boost his sperm count.
Which, okay, natural remedies, people do that.
Sure, but one day he just refused. He just said no. And Margo threw the bowl of walnuts at the fridge. It dented the stainless steel. That moment of violence shows the rage bubbling just under the surface long before she ever set foot in Grovemont.
It shows that intense hunger you mentioned. Ian doesn't have it. He's content. She's starving.
She actually calls him Indiana in her head. And it is not a compliment. It's a derogatory nickname for his wholesomeness. She resents his stability, even though that's exactly why she married him. She wants the result, the safety, but she despises the lack of edge required to get it.
So the stage is completely set. She's desperate, she's hungry, she feels her biological clock ticking like a bomb, and she's sick and tired of losing. Enter the target.
The house on a hill.
It all starts with a tip-off from their real estate agent, Ginny Gunther.
Right. Ginny calls with this golden nugget of intel. A house in Grovemont, which is Margot's absolute dream neighborhood, is going on the market, but not quite yet. The sellers are rushing to leave because of a job relocation to London.
Ah, the allure of the off-market deal. We really need to explain this because it's a very specific real estate mechanic that drives the plot here.
An off-market deal, which is sometimes called a pocket listing, is when a house is sold without ever being listed on the multiple listing service, or the MLS.
Right.
It means no public open houses, no Zillow listing, no giant bidding wars with the general public.
It's like the real estate equivalent of seeing a unicorn or
Right.
being invited into a secret society.
Exactly. It plays directly into Margot's ultimate fantasy of beating the crowd. If she can get in there before it lists, she completely avoids the 11 other bidders. She avoids the all-cash buyers. She gets to negotiate one-on-one. So naturally, her immediate reaction is to abandon her workday and go stalk the property.
Which Ian specifically warns her against. He says, do not go there, but she goes anyway. And she doesn't just drive by slowly, she trespasses.
She goes right into the backyard. And this is a pivotal moment in the narrative. We need to visualize this. It's a crisp day. The grass is perfect. And she sees something that triggers a deep, deep emotional response. A tire swing.
A tire swing. That seems so, I don't know, quaint.
It seems simple, but for Margot, it's a powerful symbol. It collapses time for her. It immediately reminds her of the Sato family. These were neighbors she intensely envied growing up.
Tell us about the Satos.
The Sotos were everything Margot's family wasn't. They had the attentive parents, the mom who waited at the bus stop with the juice box, the dad who actually came home at 5 p.m., and they had a tire swing in their yard. Margot was the latchkey kid watching them from the bushes, both literally and metaphorically.
So when she sees this swing in the Grovemont yard,
She isn't just seeing a piece of playground equipment, she's seeing a portal. She truly believes that if she buys this specific house, she isn't just buying shelter, she is buying the childhood she missed. She is buying a total rewrite of her own history for her future child.
wow, it's a sign. In her mind, the universe is actively speaking to her, saying, here it is, the life you were supposed to have.
Confirmation bias is a very powerful drug, and just as she's having this profound moment staring at the swing, she almost gets caught.
By Jack.
Jack Lombardi, one of the current owners, Margot has to think incredibly fast. She happens to be in athletic gear, so she lies and says she's a runner who just got lost.
Which is a pretty thin lie if you're standing deep in someone's private backyard, but Jack actually buys it.
He's totally disarmed by her. He's genuinely nice. And this encounter gives Margot her first real profile of the owners. You have Jack, who's a stay-at-home dad, very into yoga, comes from a commercial furniture sales background. Then you have his husband, Kurt Bradshaw.
And Kurt is a different vibe entirely.
Completely different. Kurt is an economics professor at Georgetown University, and he's an author. He wrote a book called Falling Apart, which is all about globalization. He's intellectual, he's highly protective, and as we'll see very soon, he's incredibly arrogant. And together, they have an adopted daughter, Penny, who is 6 years old.
So now Margot has the target. She has the profile, she knows they're moving to London. And instead of just waiting for the listing to go live like a normal person, Margot decides to go full espionage.
This is where we enter the infiltration phase. Margot uses straight-up social engineering to get inside. She uses the intel from her agent to find out exactly where Jack practices yoga.
Power and grace yoga.
She stages a quote-unquote chance meeting. Now, have you ever done hot yoga?
Once.
Yeah.
Just once. I thought I was going to literally die. It's like doing push-ups inside a toaster.
Exactly. It's sheer misery. And Margot hates it. She's not a namaste kind of person, but she goes. She subjects herself to 90 minutes of 105-degree heat just to make sure she puts her mat right next to Jack's.
Yeah.
This is intense physical commitment to the con.
She is literally sweating out her morals.
Pretty much. And then she drops the bomb, the fabrication. To bond with Jack, Margot lies and says that she and Ian are actively pursuing adoption.
Oh, that is just so dark. I wince every single time I think about that part of the source material.
It is deeply manipulative. She knows Jack and Kurt have an adopted daughter, so she intentionally mirrors their family structure to create this instant false intimacy.
It's leveraging a deeply personal, sensitive topic just to get a foot in the door of real estate.
And it works beautifully because it appeals directly to Jack's vanity and his desire to mentor someone. He sees himself in her. He wants to help. It's a classic con artist tactic.
Right.
Mirroring. You reflect the target's identity back at them, and they inevitably fall in love with the reflection.
So they go for coffee after class at a place called Clover.
Yes, and Margo deepens the deception there. She sits and listens to Jack's advice on the home study process.
We should probably explain what a home study is for those listening who don't know the adoption process.
A home study is a very rigorous review required for adoption. A social worker comes to your house, they interview you extensively, they check your finances, they check your safety protocols. It strictly requires a stable home environment.
Which is incredibly ironic.
Yeah.
Because a home study requires exactly what Margo does not have.
Right. She's lying about adoption to get a house so she can maybe have a baby or maybe adopt later. It's a snake eating its own tail. But she sits there at Clover, nodding, taking mental notes, just letting Jack feel like the wise expert.
Then she escalates it even further. She goes to the local playground. She actually meets Penny, the daughter, and she navigates the complex social dynamics of the Grovemont moms. Specifically, there's a neighbor named Claire.
Oh, Claire. Every single neighborhood has a Claire.
The ultimate gatekeeper.
Claire is naturally suspicious. She's highly judgmental. She makes a really snide comment about Jack and Penny. But Margo seizes the opportunity. She defends Jack. She defends Penny to Claire's face. She publicly cements her status as a loyal ally to Jack.
And the reward for all this calculated social maneuvering.
Jack invites Margo and Ian over for dinner. The plan worked flawlessly. She got the invite. She is finally going inside the Trojan horse.
But she has to drag Ian along. And Ian is not a good liar.
Ian is terrified. He knows this is fundamentally wrong, but Margo basically bullies him into it. She tells him to just be charming and whatever you do, don't screw this up.
So let's get to the dinner party, because this is the moment of truth.
They arrive at the house, and the sources describe the interior as just pure house porn. I mean, the details are visceral.
Okay, we have to pause here and actually walk through this house. Because if you don't understand the house, you really don't understand Margo's obsession. To you, the listener, this can't just be a nice house. This has to be the house.
Right. It starts right when they walk in with what Margo calls the foyer of requirement. It's wide, it's gracious, it has these stunning original crown moldings that just scream generational wealth and stability.
And then the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just some quick IKEA flip.
Not at all. We are talking about a 6-burner Thermidor range that probably costs more than Margo's first car, a massive slab of Calicotta gold marble on the center island. But it's not just about the expensive stuff, right? It's the feeling the space gives you.
It's the order. Margo's life in the glass box apartment constantly feels chaotic. There's no storage. There are noisy streets outside. She walks into this Bethesda house, and the whole world just goes quiet.
The closet is the absolute clincher for me, the master closet.
Oh, the boutique.
Yes. It has an island inside the closet. It has perfectly calibrated under-shelf lighting. Margo describes feeling an actual physical wave of serotonin just standing in there. She literally thinks to herself, if I lived here, I would magically be the kind of person who folds their sweaters correctly.
Which is the great lie of consumerism, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I just buy the right container, the contents of my life will organize themselves.
Pure magical thinking. She believes the architecture itself will fix her psychology. If she owns that closet, she'll stop being a mess. If she owns that perfect nursery, her fertility issues will instantly resolve. She is emotionally moving her furniture in while she's standing there eating their appetizers.
And she's manipulating Penny, too. She brings her a gift, an adult coloring book of London.
Which is such a weird gate for a 6-year-old, by the way. An adult coloring book. But Penny actually loves it. Margo is being perfectly charming. She is hitting every note. She is flawlessly playing the role of the ideal buyer. But Ian is really struggling. He's risk-averse, remember? He hates the deception. He does manage to bond with Kurt over leaving the corporate rat race, but you can practically feel his discomfort radiating off the page.
But Margo has a mission. They're having dinner out on the deck. She decides to shoot her shot.
This is the pitch and the pivot. She casually proposes an off-market private sale. She uses the logic that they can both save on agent commissions. It's a very rational, purely economic argument. Why give 6% to a realtor when we can just do this easy handshake deal between friends?
It makes perfect sense. It's logical. But then the slip-up happens.
It is one word, one tiny fatal word. Margo casually mentions their agent's name, Ginny.
Why does that matter so much?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're doing a private sale, who cares about a past agent?
Because Jack knows Ginny Gunther. Or rather, he knows Ginny's sister-in-law from yoga, the exact same yoga studio Margo infiltrated.
Oh, snap. The world is just way too small.
Jack connects the dots instantly. He realizes his new yoga friend Margo didn't just stumble upon him by accident. She knew exactly who they were from the start because Ginny told her about the house.
And the entire house of cards collapses.
It collapses hard and fast. Jack realizes that the adoption story, the very thing they bonded over, the thing that made him trust her with his family, was likely a complete fabrication just to gain access. The betrayal of trust is total.
It's not just about a real estate transaction anymore. It's deeply personal.
It's a profound violation. He let her into his sanctuary. He let her meet and play with his daughter. And Kurt's reaction is what's really fascinating here. The calm, collected Professor mask slips completely off.
He physically escorts them out.
He ejects them. And he doesn't just ask them nicely to leave, he threatens them. He aggressively warns them to stay away from his family or he will call the police, and he calls them sick.
Sick. That's a really strong word.
It is, and it raises a very important question that drives the rest of the story. Is Kurt just a highly protective father who's angry about an invasion of privacy? Or is his reaction completely disproportionate? Is he hiding something else? Because he goes from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. It smells like extreme paranoia.
So they kicked out. The dream is totally dead. Margo is humiliated in front of everyone. You would think this would be rock bottom.
But for Margo, the bottom has a basement. We move right into the fallout phase. Margo completely spirals.
She misses a critical day at work at her PR firm, Bezink.
She's incredibly hungover, she's deeply depressed, and she has a major event to run that day, the Bexley Hotel opening. This is a very high-profile gig for her.
And she messes it up.
Yeah.
Badly. And I want to talk about exactly why she messes it up, because it relates perfectly to how the human brain handles intense stress.
Right, she ends up serving an alcoholic cocktail to a VIP journalist named Marshall Chandler,
who famously wrote an entire memoir about his sobriety. He's literally the last person on earth you hand a drink to.
It is a catastrophic professional error. But it's not because she's stupid or bad at her job. It's because of a psychological phenomenon called cognitive tunneling.
Explain that for us.
When you are under extreme stress, like, say, being threatened by a homeowner and humiliatingly kicked out of your absolute dream future, your vision literally narrows. You focus entirely on survival. Your brain sheds all non-essential data just to conserve energy for the immediate threat. The daily details of her job, which used to be second nature to her, like checking the black wristbands that signify a guest, is no alcohol. They just become background noise. She saw a VIP guest, she saw a need for a drink, and she acted on pure instinct. But her instinct is broken because her brain is still trapped in Grovemont, not at the hotel.
Wow. So she handed a loaded gun, metaphorically speaking, to a recovering addict.
And Marshall Chandler's reaction, just spitting it out, the absolute coolness of his dismissal, it perfectly mirrors Kurt's reaction the night before. Margo is encountering these powerful figures of authority and respect, and she is humiliating herself in front of them repeatedly.
It's a humiliation conga line. And then, to make it worse, she starts lying to her boss, Jordana.
The lies just start compounding. She lied to Jack about the adoption. Now she lies to Jordana about bad shellfish, and then later a fake car accident just to cover her tracks. She is insulating herself completely with deception.
And what about Ian through all this?
Ian finally reaches his breaking point. He feels they severely crossed a moral line at that dinner party. He demands a hard break from the house hunt. He explicitly says he wants his wife back.
Which sounds totally reasonable.
To a normal person, yes. But Margo views Ian's desire for a break as pathetic weakness. She fakes compliance. Outwardly, she agrees to the break. She smiles at him. She eats his fries at dinner. But inwardly, she decides to double down. She decides that if she can't buy the house with money, she'll buy it with leverage.
The pivot to blackmail.
Exactly. The discovery phase begins. Margo starts desperately digging for dirt on Kurt Bradshaw. She needs something, anything, to force a private sale.
She goes way back to her roots as a journalist.
She starts with the low-hanging fruit, Amazon reviews. She looks up Kurt's book, Falling Apart.
And the book is about globalization, right?
Yes, dry economics. But she finds a review that isn't about economics at all. It's a 1-star review. And it just reads, in all caps, "Do not trust Curtis Bradshaw."
Chills. That is not a critique of his economic theory. That is a targeted warning.
And she finds an email trail, too. A very similar message was sent to Margo's journalist friend, Erica Ortiz, back in 2019.
Do not trust Curtis Bradshaw, who sent it.
That's the million-dollar question. Erica helps Margo trace the IP address of the anonymous sender.
Can we stop on that detail for a second? Is that actually possible, just tracing an IP address from an anonymous Amazon review?
It's a very gray area. If the review is posted anonymously, you usually need a court subpoena to get the IP log from Amazon. But if the user left a digital footprint elsewhere, or if Erica has access to certain specialized back-end tools in her newsroom, let's just say it's plausible, but it definitely crosses a huge privacy line. It shows exactly how far Margo is willing to break the rules.
So they successfully trace it, and it doesn't lead to some random coffee shop.
No, it leads directly to a server block owned by Georgetown University.
Where Kurt teaches. The call is coming from inside the house. Or, well, inside the employer.
Exactly. This drastically narrows the suspect pool from anyone on the internet to specifically students or faculty at Georgetown. And the username attached to the review, nobody.noon97, gives her a likely birth year, 1997.
Which would make the person a senior in college in 2019, exactly the year the book came out. Margo immediately creates a profile. It's a disgruntled student, probably an economics major.
So she goes full amateur detective. She sneaks onto campus and gets into the Georgetown library to view the Doomsday Book. That's what they call their official yearbook. She is physically hunting through old yearbooks, meticulously cross-referencing names of econ majors. This is hours and hours of tedious, obsessive work. This isn't house hunting anymore. This is a targeted vendetta.
She actually spends her sick day cold calling former students.
Posing as a reporter. It's incredibly risky. She's actively impersonating a journalist from the Chronicle of Higher Education. She's blatantly fishing for a scandal. She asks these highly leading questions like, did you have any issues with Professor Bradshaw? Was he appropriate with you?
Does she actually find a smoking gun?
Well, the former students all confirm that Kurt is arrogant, he's difficult, he's a notoriously hard grader, but no smoking gun yet. No actual evidence of a crime or fireable offense. However, the very act of hunting him brings her physically right back into his orbit.
The confrontation.
Right. While she's still at Georgetown, leaving the library, she is spotted by Kurt.
Oh, no.
And this is where the dynamic sharply shifts. Kurt chases her. He physically chases her into an academic building. He completely corners her near a busy lecture hall, and he grabs her wrist.
He grabs her. That is literal assault.
Yes. He definitively crosses a physical line. And Margo makes this brilliant, instinctual counter move. She doesn't cower. She screams out loud, "Professor Bradshaw, what are you doing?"
Smart. Draw as much attention as possible.
She draws the immediate attention of a nearby colleague and a lecture hall full of students whose doors are open. Kurt is instantly forced to retreat just to save face. He realizes he's made a huge scene. But this moment confirms absolutely everything for Margo.
His reaction, it's just pure fear.
Exactly. A man with nothing to hide might be annoyed she's there. A man with nothing to hide might say, "Please stop harassing my family." But to chase her down, to physically grab her wrist in a public building, that is panic. He is utterly terrified of exposure. His severe overreaction practically confirms he has a dark secret worth hiding.
So where does this leave us at the end of these sources?
It leaves us in a very precarious state of play. Margo is effectively living a complete double life. She is lying to Ian about her work success. She's claiming she landed a huge retainer that doesn't actually exist just to cover for her massive screw-ups at Buzz Inc. She's lying to her boss about her personal life. She is fully 100% committed to finding this blackmail material.
And Ian is totally oblivious. He actually thinks they're reconnecting.
Yeah.
He thinks the break is working.
Meanwhile, Kurt is highly aware that he is being hunted, and he is becoming increasingly volatile. And the house just remains the unmoving, silent object at the very center of all this chaos. The white brick, the black shutters, the tire swing.
It's the siren. It just calls to her. And she will happily crash her ship on the rocks just to get to it.
It perfectly illustrates how the American dream of homeownership can wildly mutate. Margo has completely attached her core self-worth and her entire future happiness to a material object.
I mean, Margo is clearly in the wrong for stalking and lying. There is no debating that.
Yeah.
But Kurt is hiding something.
That's the really provocative question here. If Margo finds the secret, and if that secret reveals Kurt to be a truly bad person, let's say he plagiarized his famous book, or worse, he abused a student, does getting the house justify the means?
Does exposing a villain justify becoming one yourself?
That is the core tension. We as the audience kind of want Margo to win because we want the house too. We've been completely seduced by the Calicotta marble in the perfect closet, but if she wins this way, she destroys a family to do it.
In a housing market where the best offer always wins, Margo has decided that the currency isn't money anymore. It's information. And she seems totally willing to bankrupt her morality to pay the price.
It's a really chilling thought.
All right, let's actually get into a few of the details we skipped over. I want to go back to the yoga friend betrayal, because that was the true linchpin that destroyed her first, somewhat peaceful plan.
It really was. Because Jack didn't just kick them out of his house and leave it at that. He went straight to his community. He went back to the yoga studio and gossiped. He basically said, "You will not believe what happened to me."
Gossip travels faster than light in those wealthy suburbs.
And it got straight back to Ginny Gunther.
The real estate agent.
Right. Ginny sent Margo a text message. It was essentially 2 words. Good luck. She completely fired them as clients.
Which really forced Margo's hand. If Ginny hadn't fired them, maybe Margo wouldn't have turned to outright blackmail. Maybe she would have tried to grovel and apologize to Kurt and Jack.
Maybe. But losing the legitimate path, having a licensed agent, definitely pushed her onto the illegitimate path of the private investigation. It removed all the guardrails. Without an agent there to say, hey, that's illegal or that's highly unethical, Margo is her own counsel. And her counsel is acting crazy.
It removed the superego and left only the id running the show.
Exactly. And Ian tried so hard to be a guardrail. Let's take a break.
But his guardrail was made of balsa wood. She just smashed right through it.
Because she fundamentally doesn't respect him anymore. She sees him as an obstacle to manage, not a partner to build a life with. That dinner at the Royal, when she's eating his French fries and smiling at him while secretly hating him.
You can have your wife back. She is lying directly to his face. She is totally compartmentalizing him. He is now just something to be managed, not consulted.
It's chilling behavior. She's treating her own husband like a difficult PR client she needs to spin, or a crisis she needs to contain for Buzz Inc.
So as we're wrapping up here, we clearly have a story about the insanity of the DC housing market, sure. But it's really a deeper story about the absolute fragility of the good life.
It is. It's about how incredibly thin the veneer of civilization really is. You just strip away a little bit of housing security, you add some intense biological pressure, you throw in the envy of the neighbor's tire swing, and suddenly a very successful PR executive is stalking an economics professor in a university library.
We're all just 3 bad decisions away from being Margo Miyake.
Well, maybe not all of us. I like to think I wouldn't impersonate a federal reporter. But the immense pressure she feels is very relatable. The reaction is extreme, but the feeling of being left behind is universal.
It definitely makes you look at those sold signs in your neighborhood a little differently.
What did it actually cost? Not just the final price tag. What did it cost the buyer's soul?
And I think that leads us to a really great final thought for you to mull over. We all know Margo is wrong. She is actively stalking, she is lying, she is manipulating people. But Kurt is hiding something huge.
He is terrified.
If Margo finds that secret, let's assume it's a massive ethical breach or a crime, and she uses that dirt to get the house. Does the end ultimately justify the means?
In a market where the highest bid wins, Margo has just decided the real currency isn't cash. It's leverage, it's information. And she is completely willing to spend every last ounce of her morality to close the deal.
And that is a price very few of us could ever afford to pay. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today. Remember, don't stalk your neighbors.
And always check your wristbands. See you next time.